you earlier were talking about JD Vance and some of the comments that he made. There was a clip that has resurfaced from him on the Tucker Carlson show, where he had comments about women who were single and do not have children. And this has sparked a new controversy with a guy who's been named the vice president for just a few weeks and is probably already one of the most unpopular, if not the most unpopular vice presidential candidate we have ever seen.
Run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. And it's just a basic fact. You look at Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, AOC, the entire
Pete has kids now, by the way.
The entire future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it?
So this is a guy who's in the club. He's in the Tucker club, and he knows he's got to say Tucker kind of things. I'm sure at that time he didn't realize that he was going to be a vice presidential candidate and that this comment would come back and haunt him. But Lana, you're a woman. What are your thoughts about lonely cat ladies? Are they ruining the country?
So Tammy Faye Baker said she wants her eyeliner back. That's number one.
Right. I thought they were against drag queens and all. I don't. That whole fucking side is weird.
I mean, they just say whatever, man. Like I don't know how to respond to any of this because it just makes no sense, and it just pisses you off because it's like, even if you're trying to get a rise out of someone, why would you say that? Like you mentioned again, AOC, Kamala, Pete, Lindsey Graham has no children. He has never been married. What would you call him? Tim Scott manufactured a fiance. Weird. All because he thought he had a chance to be VP, right? But he's regretting that. August 3rd or whenever that was is going to come this weekend and go because he ain't getting married this weekend. He doesn't have any children. So why is the onus again on women? But it's just the further criminalization and demonization of women, making women without. And here's the thing too. Forget that. Vance voted against protecting IVF. So on one hand, he's like, you boo, you suck. You don't have any kids. You shouldn't have a say. But then he's like, but if you need help getting pregnant, I'm voting against you getting that help too. Like, what the frick, man? Like, what the frick? Like, that's why none of it makes sense. None of these anti-abortion laws make sense. It's again, and we can't say this enough, it's to control women. Women are opening too many businesses, being entrepreneurs, going to college too much, getting too many degrees. Especially, they don't like you white women either. So I'm not sure why you want to continue to vote for MAGA, because they're pissed at you because you white women are a part of the DEI. So it's not just Black and brown people who benefit from the affirmative actions or from diversity hiring, because they will take a white woman before they take a Black woman or a Black man. So white women are getting all those powerful positions right now, and your men are pissed about it.
Yeah, when you mentioned DEI earlier, I was asking somebody, they were asking me, what is Kamala Harris's qualifications to be president? And I said, well, first of all, she was an attorney general. She was voted in as attorney general in her state. She was voted in as a U.S. senator, and she was the vice president for 4 years. And I got back an LOL, that did not answer my question. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. what exactly were the qualifications that Donald Trump had to even run for president? And that's where the conversation ended. I did not hear back.
White man.
Is that it?
They were saying, "Oh, he's a businessman, so he'll be able to run the country." And I don't know if it was you and I that spoke about this, but it's like, one, failed businessman, but two, just because someone's the fucking CEO of Macy's, I don't think that I would want to vote for them for president, because running the country is way fucking different than running a fucking business. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing on the planet. The person who runs the country, you want them to have served in some type of capacity. You know, if they have a legal background, that's kind of good too. Maybe be able to form a sentence, that works as well. And if we really want to get technical about it, to be the president, what? You have to be what? 35 and older, in the country for what? 14 years, in a citizen? 3 things. That's it. So technically, she is qualified.
I mean, it's a stupid question to even have to go. I mean, it's so stupid. But
explaining for a black woman, it's because she's a black. They would never, even if it was, but no one has asked Biden's qualifications. No one, when Biden ran, said, what are Biden's qualifications? Why?
Right.
Because he is a white man.
Right. And he basically had the same the same resume as Kamala Harris has now.
Right. So, an attorney.
Right. Yeah. And, he was a senator and he was a vice president, so.
And can I just respond to something? Because the trolls also like to be like, oh, she was sleeping her way to the top and blah, 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 which we know is not true. But I just want them to really think about it. I don't think that her sleeping her way to anything or anyone else could sleep their way into law school, right? Because you actually have to get accepted into law school. Mm-hmm. Then you have to pass the bar. So the bar doesn't give a fuck who you out here sleeping with. It ain't gonna make you pass the bar, right? So like, what the fuck are y'all talking about? And as you said, she had to be voted in as the attorney general and as senator. None of that matters who she slept with. Right. No one, that didn't make her a senator. Her constituents made her a senator and an attorney general. Yep. So y'all are misguided and dumb.
Well, again, it goes back to the misogyny of it all too. It's like, first of all, I don't give a flying fuck if Kamala Harris was a porn star that was in 300 porns. If she was the same exact woman and she said, this is what I can do, this is how I can do it, doesn't matter to me. It really doesn't, because it doesn't matter to you that you guys voted in a guy who's now a convicted felon that you want to vote for. It doesn't matter to you that he's an adjudicated rapist. Does not matter to you that he failed in literally almost everything he's ever put his hands on, but you dupes think that he was a good businessman. His best business move was collecting the money after his father died. That's the best thing that happened for that man. So,
and now we're hearing from Fred Trump, his nephew, that he doggone cut off medical insurance on his nephew's disabled son and then tried to steal their inheritance. That's not far-fetched, because we already know that he scammed people from Trump University and stole from his own charity. But MAGA continue to support this person like none of this happened. Like everyone is lying about it. Like you Google it, that's a lie. The only people telling the truth are what? Fox News, who won't report.
Well, that's what it is. They're not allowed to believe. Yeah, they're not allowed to believe anything else. I mean, they want to really kind of educate themselves. The New York Times did a huge expose years ago. This was probably 2017. And it was basically how Donald Trump ripped off his own family to get, the money that he got. And trust me, the New York Times would not be allowed to post this entire story without facts, without being able to back it up, because that Sue Happy, bastard would have 100%
Exactly.
gone
Sued
after the
them.
New York
Right,
Times and sued
exactly.
the hell out of them, but
Right.
he didn't. And there's a reason for that, because
Right.
they had the proof
Right.
behind everything they were saying. But
Right.
back to JD Vance, he had an opportunity to respond. He was on Trey Gowdy's show, and I gotta admit, I don't know what's going on with the Fox News host there, but
They're
you know,
sick
you
of
had
his
Neil
shit.
Cavuto in the first one, and
They're
now
sick of it.
Trey Gowdy pushing back on JD Vance about his cat lady statement. And of course, JD Vance does the famous "that's not what I meant," but you know, he does get some pushback here, which was nice to see.
Are calling me, who very much would like to support you and President Trump. Dr. Connie Rice does not have children. Neither does my friend, your colleague, Tim Scott. George Washington did not have biological children, and neither did James Madison. So I think you will agree with me that direct offspring are not necessary to be fully invested in the future of this country.
Of course not, Trey. I do think that being a parent actually has a profound effect on somebody's perspective, and we should honor and respect that. But there are a whole host of people who don't have children for a whole host of reasons, and they certainly are great people who can participate fully in the life of this country. And that's not what I said, Trey. If you look at what the left has done, they have radically taken this out of context and, in fact, aggressively lied about what I've said. What I do think is...
First of all, this is Trey Gowdy. He's as far from the left as could be. He's the one that's pushing back on you. So you are basically either calling this guy an idiot by not recognizing that it's the left that's making these attacks, or you're talking dumb drivel bullshit because you don't know what else to say other than the same old, boring, and weird shit that it's the left doing this to poor us. You fucking pussies.
Yep.
True, Trey. And this goes to the heart of what I was talking about 3 years ago in those comments, but it's going to be something I continue to talk about, is that the left has increasingly become explicitly anti-child and anti-family. They've encouraged young families not to have children at all because of concerns over climate change. They've suggested that people who do have children are
actually not a bad call.
How being selfish, when I think being a parent is actually the most selfless thing that you can do, and again, really does transform your perspective. So this is not a criticism, and was never a criticism, Trey, of everybody without children. That is a lie of the left. It is a criticism of the increasingly anti-parent and anti-child attitude of the left. There's one more thing I'm going to say on this, Trey. I think a lot of parents and a lot of non-parents look at our public policy over the last 4 years and ask, how did we get to this place? How did we get to a place where Kamala Harris is calling for an end to the child tax credit? How did we get to a place where we were masking toddlers years into the pandemic? I think it's because we radically underrepresent the perspective of parents in our public discourse. I'm going to keep on calling that out because I think it's important for parents to have a voice, and I'm proud to be on the ticket with President Trump. I think a real defender of parents and families.
Well, from the news, you might not be on the ticket that much longer, but you know, it's possible that you may see somebody else. But Lana, you brought this up a little bit earlier. He's also in the past called people without children sociopathic, that they're less mentally stable, deranged, and psychotic. And as you brought up earlier, he was on stage talking about that parents with children should have more say when it comes to voting than parents without children. Because they have more stake in the game. Again, just they're the ones calling the left radical. These comments are outrageously radical. And by the way, we've never heard these comments before until this whole weird MAGA movement came around, who now keeps talking about freedoms, but they're the ones who want to take all these freedoms away. They're the ones who keep preaching about how, I mean, they don't say it directly, but how we're almost too free. Like people without children have too much say, and women should not be allowed to have abortions, even if they're raped. He said that women should not be able to be out of marriages, even if they're beaten. They should still stay in it because of the children. And, you know, this whole idea that we all need to have children. Actually, I do agree. I grew up wanting to have kids. Got married, got divorced, didn't happen. And there was a point in my life where I was like, man, I really want to have kids. I am thrilled to death now I don't have children in this world, especially now because we're not getting better as a society. I'm sorry, we're just not. Even when MAGA sort of goes away, we have just too much shit out there that we are now in a place, because there's just so many different outlets, that we're ignoring facts, and people just say and believe whatever the fuck they want to. And it's not just people on the streets. It is people with large amounts of influence. And that scares the shit out of me.
Yeah. I just keep like the nerve of Republicans to tell people that they should have kids because the left, whatever that means, right? Because they keep putting people in left and right, and everyone doesn't fall into those two categories because everyone in this world, in America, is not friggin' political.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there are people who don't want to have kids, and it's like the nerve of you to say, well, the left is saying that you don't have to have kids, and that's the problem. It's anti this and anti family. If you don't want to have kids, that's not anti family. Having children, you have to have a specific mindset. You should be a nurturer, right? That's why you end up with actually bad parents that do bad parenting, right? Because they're not fit to be anyone's friggin' parent. Everyone's not fit to be a parent. Everyone doesn't have that mental capacity or is a nurturer. That's why kids get abused. Like, you just don't have it. And for them to say like you're anti-family because you're not having kids is wild. And that's the very reason why Republicans are okay with child brides. Republicans are okay with having children work later hours in dangerous jobs.
Right.
Republicans are okay with like a 10-year-old being pregnant. Like, they're okay with all this sick, twisted shit just so like more babies. Like, what the fuck is wrong with them? It's like they're afraid of extinction.
Yeah. And Lana, by the way, and if anybody thinks that what you're saying is made up and radical, I mean, there legitimately are Congress people. I want to say one in Missouri who is trying to pass a law that it is okay to marry a 12-year-old.
Yes.
So, it's a whole weird, strange thing going on with them. And like you were talking about, not everybody is the left. They have to put this label on there. Yeah, they might have heard somebody on TikTok saying, I'm never going to have kids because we're never going to take care of climate change, which again is a legitimate reason for that particular person.
For that person.
If they feel that way, right. Who is to say that? I mean, why does that make them weird? Why does that make them, and by the way, that's also suggesting that everybody with kids has a just perfectly normal family. And I can assure you that 100% is not the case, because I know plenty of strange ass.
And we know he doesn't have one.
Correct. Yeah, I know. Look at the fucking Trump family. They're as strange as they fucking get.
Right. He got kids that don't even fucking like him.
He likes her. He likes his daughter. That's for sure. Well, there's plenty of evidence
to. And that's the only one that he likes.
Yeah. He might like her a little bit too much.